You're listening to the PMKE podcast, and we're very happy and lucky to have Ben Langmaid with us. Now, Ben is one of these movers and shakers behind the scenes in the music business, so it's going to be very interesting to find out all about him, because he's not someone that you necessarily would recognise or would know his name, but you have heard a lot of his music. So, Ben, welcome.
Yes.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, I'm good.
Now, I suppose the project to date that you've been best known for was the Fantastic LaRue.
Yes.
So perhaps we should start there. Could you tell us how you met Ellie and how it happened?
Yeah, I met her through a friend of mine, a guy called Jason Bacon, and that's a real name too. And a lot of my friends know that I'm always looking for people to work with, like young talent, basically. So I got a call from him like 2 o'clock in the morning. He was pretty drunk, and he'd been at a party and woke me up. So I wasn't too happy to hear from him, but he was raving about this girl who was playing guitar at this party he was at. And I just sort of not quite slammed the phone down on him, but I just said, could you just give her my number, and thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. And a week later this girl rang me and said, oh hi, my name's Ellie Jackson. Jason gave me your number, I hear you're a producer, I wonder if I could come over and play some stuff. So I said, yeah, come over. And she came over to mine, and she had long hair then and guitar on her back, and kind of a Joni Mitchell thing going on. And she was just great. I immediately knew that she was good, and she was just 17 then. So we started working from there, really.
Because I think that's a surprise for a lot of people, isn't it, that Ellie was into that kind of folky stuff, because it was obviously a very electronic sound. Well, the last album as well, although it did sound different to the first album, I think that was a surprise, wasn't it, that she was into that kind of music?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I tell people that, they're always surprised. And she came from, like myself, really had parents that were really into music, and kind of that whole scene, that whole kind of California, Eagles, Joni Mitchell, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young was one kind of aspect of what she listened to, and she just loved music from back in the day, and so she came with a lot of knowledge already at a young age, and we had a lot of similar tastes.
And the visuals, I suppose, were kind of very 80s inspired as well.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You just said that she arrived with a guitar on her back and long hair. So did she have help creating that look? How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, when we started working together, we wrote a lot of songs acoustically, because that's where she kind of was at that time. But we found it difficult making acoustic music different. We found it challenging because it's all been done, especially in acoustic music. I mean, we were banging biscuit tins and all sorts of stuff to try and make some different things happen with the production. But we didn't really get anywhere in that side of things, but we wrote a lot of good songs because it was all stripped back. So, and through that time we were listening to a lot of electronic 80s stuff that I was kind of grew up on and I was really into, and she was into it as well. So bands like Depeche Mode, Yazoo, Vince Clarke was brought up a lot, and also we looked at a lot of pictures, of all the new romantic kind of stuff.
Yeah, very synth-led.
Yeah, absolutely.
That whole sound. Was it a natural progression after you kind of realised that was the style that you wanted the first album to sound like? Did it seem like an easy job? Not that it was an easy job to actually do it, but it just felt like natural for you to go in that direction.
You mean the second record?
The first album.
Well, the first album we wrote a lot of songs, and then we realised we were getting nowhere having it as a kind of modern folk record. So she went off on holiday, and she ended up hanging out with MIA for 2 weeks on some remote Caribbean island, and she got a lot of kind of knowledge from MIA, Maya, and she was talking about names and having kind of different aspects, having a whole kind of like alter ego as an artist, and she really kind of planted a few seeds. But already we'd been talking about that whole thing, the visual aspect of music and visuals and all those kind of things. And then she came back and cut all her hair off, and that started the ball rolling. And then we started doing, she said, I want to do stuff electronically, and I said, I was just going to say exactly the same thing to you. So we came to the same conclusions, even though we've been a few weeks apart.
So did you start again with the writing, or did you change the folk songs and reproduce them in a new way?
We wrote Quicksand first. That was the first song we wrote, and that was our first soft kind of release, and that started the ball rolling. And then we went back to the songs we'd written acoustically and see if we could make them transfer over to an electronic thing. And In For The Kill was written acoustically. If you listen to the keyboards on that, it's dum chicka chicka, which is an acoustic guitar playing kind of rhythm, but we just brought that over to an electronic thing, did it with keys. So some of them transferred over quite well.
And it was so well received as well. The band, you won a Grammy, and it was a fantastic time, wasn't it? Especially with the first album. Did you expect that it was going to take off in such a big way?
No, not really. No, you never do, I don't think. And you never think this is going to be massive. You always think, I'll be lucky if I get a record deal.
Yeah.
So, that was... But we were just doing it for the love of it, and I think that helped in a way, because we just didn't have any ideas of... We weren't in any way trying to impress anybody. We were just trying to impress ourselves in a way that we could. We just wanted to enjoy making music and writing songs.
So how did you... why are you not in the videos or sort of known as part of the band? Was that you just don't want to do that?
No, I hate it. That's why, Katherine. I'm not like you. I don't have your bravery.
You are a DJ, though. You have DJ'd, haven't you, in public before?
I have. I've DJ'd to lots of people, and I was always terrified. I've never really said that at all before, but I was always terrified, even DJing. Just being up there, being in any way sort of the centre of attention was always, I found, very difficult.
We spoke to Judy Zook about this as well, and she has this kind of stage fear. Because she doesn't want to be in the spotlight, and I guess it's in your makeup, isn't it? If you don't feel comfortable in that spotlight, you just want to be making the music, but not necessarily out there where people can see you. You just want to be doing it privately almost.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and also with Ellie, she was 20 years younger than me. So in the photos, it wouldn't have looked right. And when we actually signed to a record label. And they said, look, how do you want this to look, guys? Are you going to be in the pictures, Ben? And I said, no. There was a kind of sigh of relief, I think. And, yeah.
We should say at this point that Ben actually is a very good-looking man. And though he says he doesn't work out, I can see muscles on his arms, and I would say that.
It's Pilates.
Massive.
He says it's
huge
Pilates.
arms. Huge arms.
I've got to start Pilates.
So tell us about your fitness regime. We ask everyone for tips.
I don't have any tips. I have to go to professionals to help me with my fitness regime.
I'm quite curious about where things stand with you and Ellie now, because we've read so many different things. There's a lot of negative stuff as well. There are reports that that you fell out and you had creative differences. Are you on good terms now?
No, we're not really. Sadly, we're not. No,
yeah.
No. We parted a few years back, and I'd had a lot of influence and writing with the second record.
It was
but
about 6 songs, wasn't it, that you
yes,
worked
yeah,
on?
Yeah. And it was a difficult process. I think we were both quite under a lot of pressure, and we felt the pressure more than we realised for the second album, because the first album we did so well with that, and so there was that pressure there. And I think sometimes that doesn't always help mesh or build a relationship through that period of time, and I think that test basically made it difficult for us to kind of like remain close, I suppose, and who knows what the future holds.
Because you hear these things, from bands, reports of fallouts and stuff, because it happens. It happens when you're working together with somebody. You both have different ideas, but it's such a cliche, isn't it? The whole creative differences thing. But it's so important, I suppose, when you're working on something. You've got to have the same ideas about something that you.
Well, you kind of do and you don't. I think you do in a way that you have a shared vision, but you pull each other in different directions and you push each other. There'll be times where we're in the studio and she'll be like, look, that snare drum doesn't sound hard enough, and I'll be like, all right, well, that vocal isn't there either, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like that. And but that kind of stuff helps the record get better, because you push each other, and I've just been working with a guy recently, and he said, I like the way you push me, because he's kind of in his own world, and I'm in his studio, and he's been working there for a long time under his own kind of thing, and I'm like, no, I want that drums. I want those drums to be smoking. I want them to be punching out, and it's kind of. But I need pushing too. When you have those good creative partnerships, you really do have that. You push each other on, and that's a good thing.
But I guess if you don't agree with the sound that somebody thinks is a good sound, you have to be honest about it, don't you? You have to be honest that it's not really your your way that you want to go?
No, I mean, we had massive arguments at times, where with days we wouldn't speak to each other. We'd have to just back off and come back. And, we're both passionate people. We're both quite similar. And her and I, we were creatively, I thought, a force to be reckoned with. But also, it was a difficult process at times.
Sometimes 3 can be a good number for that reason, because with Bimbo Jones, sometimes, 2 of us wouldn't agree, but then the other person would just take a side, and we'd kind of unless you felt really strongly, you'd kind of back down and you think, well, all right, 2 of us think it's the thing, so we'll just go with it, because otherwise it's not going to get finished. And so that worked quite well with us.
Yeah, I think that can work. I mean, that's definitely a triangle, a trio is a good thing, and I find those easier, those situations. But I don't know. It's you never know. It all depends on the personnel involved, I guess. I think it's not always easy to know, what you're going to do next with everyone.
I just want to say that you and I met because we were neighbours.
We were. She was a terrible neighbour. She really was.
We lived in
loud neighbour.
She was loud and noisy.
Thank you. Blame of the time. Down in Teddington, where I still live. The original cottage hospital from the 19th century has been converted into a rather beautiful block of 8 flats. And we were in one and you were in another.
That's right.
And you, but at that time, had is it Huff and Herb?
Huff and Herb.
So you were already
and Huff and Puff with Rollo.
Yes, I was going to mention them because I thought that's how you met, because I thought with the dance connection, I thought it would have been that, but it wasn't. I was quite surprised.
And then Ben gave me a backing track and I wrote a song over it, and we signed it really largely due to your connection with Faithless, because Sister Bliss really liked the record, didn't she?
She played it on Pete Tong's show. She was a guest on Pete Tong's Essential Radio 1 show, Essential New Tune, and I think he made it Essential New Tune the following week. She was a guest and he said, look, what are you into at the moment, what are you playing? And she said, this is a friend of mine, but it's a really good record. And he fell in love with it from that point. So, and then Seb Fontaine got involved with that. He really loved and championed the record as well.
We signed it to Data, Ministry of Sound.
Yep.
It's called Getting Into You by Wasp with an O.
I want to ask you what you're doing now, because obviously you've got so many things that you've done before, and it's not just LaRue. It's obviously, like we mentioned, Huff and Herb and Huff and Puff and all those connections that you've got. Is there any new music that you're working on now? Or
yeah, there is. I'm producing a band called Albuquerque, and they're from Belfast, just to confuse everything. But they're a really good band, and I've signed their publishing. I've got a publishing company. I
don't need confusing anymore than I am confused already. You're not helping Ben.
What's your publishing company called?
It's called Arnold Music Publishing, after my dog.
That's a good enough reason, I think.
Amp.
Yeah. So are you about to release this? Is this something that's happening soon?
Well, I'm actually finishing the production now. I went to Wales. I went to a studio called Rockfield in Wales on a farm, and it's been there a long time. It's quite a famous studio, and we spent 10 days there tracking stuff and just recording, and now I'm just kind of producing the tracks at a studio over in southwest London, or kind of near Kingston. So
excellent. So if people want to find out release dates and stuff, can they go to your Facebook page? Have you got any?
No, because there aren't any yet. Because next we want to find a home for it. So that's the next thing. I'm actually going to see a few labels in the next few weeks.
Excellent.
And play them a few things.
And I guess if people keep coming back to this podcast, they can hear details, because we'll get it from you.
Of course. That's
absolutely not just a crafty ploy, by the way.
No.
You come back to
totally, absolutely cool. I mean, people ask me what they sound like, and I hate dropping names and saying they're a cross between, and these guys, it's really difficult because the singer's got this amazing Northern Irish Celtic vocal, you know. Wow. But I call it Celtic New Wave. I think it's Celtic New Wave. There's a lot of kind of interesting electronica working with the band as well, so I think people are going to like it.
Sounds exciting. That sounds really good. Looking forward to that. Ben, it's great having you on the show today, and nice to have you come around to the Diva studio as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
It's great. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.